Good evening. On behalf of the faculty at College of the Canyons, I welcome you to the 23rd scholarly presentation. I am Dr. Adele Alonso, counseling faculty here and Academic Senate President. It is with pride that I welcome you to the scholarly presentation, a special biannual event that highlights the exceptional quality of our faculty and the breadth of their knowledge and expertise. Scholarly presentations are in part due to the work and dedication of the Scholarly Presentation Committee, who selects the speaker each term. The committee is composed of faculty from various disciplines, themselves past presenters. I thank the committee and the committee's chair, Communication Studies Professor David Stevenson, for their time and commitment to bringing topics of unique interest to the college community and to the community at large. I want to thank Chancellor Van Hook for her support of this program, and I want to extend a special welcome to the members of the Board of Trustees of the Santa Clarita Valley Community College District who have joined us this evening. Please join me in welcoming Mike Berger, Bruce Fortine, Michelle Jenkins, Joan McGregor, and Steve Zimmer. And I believe also in the audience is our Chief Instructional Officer, Dr. Jerry Buckley. Their genuine support is essential to the success of programs such as the one you're about to witness tonight, and we sincerely appreciate it. I also want to thank the COC Foundation for its generous sponsorship of the scholarly presentations. Before we begin, I want to remind the audience to please stay after the end of the presentation so that we may present the speaker with a special plaque and honorarium. So please don't leave, stay for that moment. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's speaker, Adjunct Professor Kathryn Coleman, who will focus on both the benefits and the potentially detrimental effects of the widespread use of social media. Her presentation, entitled Our Two-Faced World, is sure to strike a chord in all of us who post on such social networking sites as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Professor Coleman is a critical sociologist specializing in the areas of sexuality, deviance, crime, and social control. She attended College of the Canyons, earned her bachelor's degree in sociology from the University of California, Santa Barbara, and received her master's degree in sociology from California State University, Northridge. Kathryn Coleman has taught many of the interesting courses offered by the sociology department at COC, and she's been teaching with us since 2008. This current semester, she's teaching Introduction to Sociology, Women's Studies, and the Deviance, Crime, and Social Control class. She also teaches at Los Angeles Valley College and at Pasadena City College. Besides teaching, Kathryn finds the time to publish papers on specialized topics, including the rehumanization of sexuality, the American prison system, and the relationship between academic and intelligence agencies. We're going to start tonight's presentation with a short video, and then Kathryn will join us. But before I leave the stage, I ask you for an applause to welcome her when she does come out. Here's the video.
Oh, wow. Better make this good. Okay. So, in 2010, Facebook's creator, Mark Zuckerberg, actually predicted that Facebook would become the social center of the web. I started my research about 1.5 years ago, and it began with some simple questions. Questions like, what is Facebook? Who's on Facebook? Am I missing some social boat from not being on Facebook? And I wanted to know what some benefits were and if there were any consequences. And if we were moving towards Zuckerberg's prediction of it becoming the social center of our web, how would those benefits and consequences then translate from our virtual world into our real-life interactions? And that's what tonight's presentation is about. In our Two Facebook world, we'll be discussing there'll be three main themes, where in the first one, we're going to be discussing what is Facebook. We'll answer that question, the question I had 1.5 years ago. We'll look at some statistics and popular uses, as well as the social benefits of this social network. We'll also be answering the question, what it might be. This is when we're going to explore the possibility of social disintegration being a result of a society becoming more engulfed in this Facebook world. And we'll use sociological theory to help us answer some of those questions. And in the final part of our presentation, we'll be talking about what we can do as consumers, with a short response and discussion. So, what is Facebook? Facebook is the #1 networking site, social networking site in the world. It was started in 2004 by Mark Zuckerberg, and it was available only to Harvard students. His idea was to make it easier for students at Harvard to get to know one another. But as it grew in popularity, he then made it available to all college students. And eventually, in fact, today, really the only prerequisite to be on Facebook is you have to be 13 years or older. As of March of this year, Facebook reached a landmark, over 1 billion users. So there are now 1.11 billion users, active users, on Facebook. We could fill Dodger Stadium 19,000 times with the amount of people that are on Facebook. In fact, if Facebook were a country, it would be the third largest in the world after China and India. There are currently more people on Facebook than there are living in the United States. Facebook is followed by some other social networking sites. The next most popular is actually Twitter with 500 million users, Instagram with 150 million users, Flickr has 87 million users, and Pinterest has 70 million. This pales in comparison to the over 1 billion users on Facebook, which is really the main reason why we're focusing on this social medium tonight. The revenue made last year, reported by Facebook, $3.7 billion. Now, Facebook is seemingly free for its consumers, for people on Facebook, so where is this money coming from? All social networking sites rely almost exclusively on advertising for their revenue. In the first quarter of this year, the total revenue for Facebook was $1.46 billion, just in the first quarter of 2013. Of that, ad revenue was responsible for $1.25 billion. There are a couple of ways, though, that revenue can be made through advertising. One is advertisers can buy space on our pages. So when we get on our Facebook pages, we often see, usually to the right-hand side, a list of advertisements. We don't choose those. We don't control them as consumers. That's actually real estate that's been bought by those advertising companies. However, there's something even more financially beneficial for Facebook. See, advertisers don't really want access to our pages. Our pages can't buy stuff. They want access to us, the consumer. So what Facebook does is monitors our browsing habits, and then they sell that information to advertising companies. So actually, in Facebook's Statement of Rights and Responsibilities, which is essentially that thing that we all agreed to before signing on to Facebook, in Section 2 it says you, the consumer, grant us a non-exclusive, transferable, sub-licensable, royalty-free, worldwide license to use any IP content you post on or in connection with Facebook. So before we even create our pages, we've already signed our rights away to what we consider our property. So some popular uses of Facebook, and this is not by any means a comprehensive list, these are just some of the most popular features. The first one, the most popular, is actually the like. It is getting actually harder and harder to find a business that does not want us to like them on Facebook. It is somewhat free advertising for those companies, but it's actually become an online economy driven by likes. It enables networks like Facebook to track our browsing habits and then again selling that data to advertisement companies, but it does something else. It also somewhat measures our virtual worth as Facebook users. When we update our status, when we post a new picture, what are we looking for? Oftentimes, we're looking for those coveted likes, and we're tracking them and counting them. We also have friending as a very popular feature on Facebook, and there's a couple of types of friending. So the first one we're going to talk about is the friend suggestion. The friend suggestion is a pretty interesting one in that once you sign on to Facebook and you start gaining friends, Facebook as a third party actually tries to hook you up with other people. So Katie, you know person one. Person one knows person two. Katie, we suggest you be friends with person two. Whether or not we really know these people, Facebook has no idea. We can choose to add that friend or ignore the request. We also have formal friend requests where people who have found our page formally ask us to be their friends. In what other social situation would we formally request for somebody, would you please be my friend? Do you accept my request? I'll tell you my interests, my religious views, and my political views before you accept. This doesn't happen, except in the Facebook world. We also formally defriend people or unfriend them. I would like to, I try not to imagine what that would look like in real life. I don't know if any of you, we're going to watch a video clip right now. Some of you may have seen it. Sprint released this video clip wherein James Earl Jones and Malcolm McDowell actually dramatize our Facebook friending activity.
Stephanie has sent you a friend request.
You and Stephanie are now friends.
Hannah has sent you a friend request.
You and Hannah are now friends.
Greg has sent you a friend request.
I don't know Greg. I think we can assume we are not going to accept him as a friend based on this reaction. And we have that choice on Facebook. We can formally decline somebody's friend request. Another popular feature of Facebook is the timeline. Now, a timeline is essentially this thing that shows up on your page that tracks what you do. It reports when you post a picture or you update a status or if you like something. And this is a photo of Mark Zuckerberg standing in front of the screen on the day that he released the timeline to the world. And if you can read what it says behind him, it says, timeline, the story of your life. All your stories, all your apps express who you are. All your apps express who you are. So with this timeline, something he said that day actually really stuck with me. And that was, now everything you do on Facebook will be dated and forever recorded in your timeline. So this is another way that essentially makes it easier for Facebook to track our browsing habits and track what we've done on our timeline. But it does something else. It makes it more difficult for consumers to delete or possibly edit what we have placed on our timeline. So imagine your 13-year-old self and some status updates you would have posted at that age. And imagine your boss finding them 5 years later, 10 years later. Another really popular function on Facebook is gaming. Now, I was looking up just until really the last minute of this presentation, the most popular games on Facebook. One of them is Farmville. We're essentially creating and managing virtual farms. Words with Friends. It's Scrabble on Facebook. Then we have Candy Crush Saga. Okay. Maybe you can explain to me what Candy Crush Saga is after tonight, because I'm still looking to find the point of this game. But what I did find really interesting was that by the end of this year, social gamers will spend $6 billion in virtual goods. We can create pages on Facebook. Pages are separate from profiles, used to describe maybe events or businesses. Here's one example. This one was created to track Hurricane Sandy. This page actually turned out to be very beneficial. When Hurricane Sandy was coming toward the East Coast, people were losing cell service. They were losing phone service. They were not able to make phone calls, including 911 emergency calls. They were still able to get online, though, with their mobile devices. So what they began doing was posting on pages like this one and on Twitter cries for help from 911 responders. They would post their address, how many people they had with them, and what kind of danger they were in. 911 responders knew this, and they immediately took to Facebook and Twitter to start tracking those people and responding to 911 calls that way. Here's a page that was created to monitor the government shutdown only a few weeks ago. It is now safe to turn off your government, which when I retrieved this, it was only a couple days old with over 1,000 likes. Here's COC's own page. Students can go here to keep up with regular events on campus. We can check dates, pending dates, maybe registration dates, just current events that are happening here on campus. And while I was looking for pages to share with you guys, I came across this one. Hot girls eating hot dogs. Not that I'm trying to dare anyone, but there's actually a lot of pages that are dedicated to hot girls eating things on Facebook. And I was concerned less really with the imagery or the message as I was with this page having over 2,000 people liking it. We can also follow people or be followed on Facebook. Again, I ask, what is so different about this virtual world that it's okay to virtually follow someone? In our real lives, if somebody said, I'm going to follow you, but you're not going to know when, or where, or when I'm going to stop, typically we would think this is a red flag. Hopefully we're alerting someone. This could be dangerous. But Zuckerberg here, you can see, is followed by 19 million people. They know his likes, they know his browsing habits, they know when he's at home and when he's not. And here's the poke. I don't even have to say anything, do I? The coveted poke. I asked my students, before I got on Facebook in July, I asked my students, what is the poke? And most of the answers I got was, I don't know. Well, what do you use it for? Well, you can just poke someone. When I was growing up, to poke someone had a very different meaning than it does today. And actually, we're going to watch a clip right now demonstrating how our shift in language surrounding the poke has been affected by Facebook.
Stan, Grandma said she poked you and you haven't sent a poke back.
Dad, I didn't even want to do
Stan, poke your grandma.
Okay, so we can see how this word poke has taken on a new meaning on Facebook. I was actually describing this clip to a colleague of mine, and when I told him, you know, this dad wants his son to poke his grandma, and the son doesn't want to poke his grandma, my colleague actually responded with, well, I just hope he uses protection. So now we're going to look at Facebook as a social force. We just discussed actually how Facebook has changed the way we speak with just the poke, the definition of poke changing. It's also changed the way we've made connections and the way we do business. So the way we speak has been affected in a very short amount of time. Facebook has taken a lot of forms. In fact, it can be a verb, I am Facebooking. It can be a noun, I am on Facebook. It could be an adverb, I am Facebook gaming. It can also be an adjective, she is a Facebook friend. New acronyms have been either created or popularized on Facebook, and I took a list of the most popular acronyms on Facebook, and I categorized them into themes. So the first one comes in the theme of warnings. NSFW, anybody know what this means? not safe for work. I've actually noticed a couple of students have worn NSFW shirts to school. I'm just hoping they don't work with kids. We also have POS. This stands for parent over shoulder. So if parents are monitoring their kids on Facebook, all they have to do is type POS. We have sexual illusions. TDTM stands for too dirty to mention. Cyberbullying, BIH standing for burn in hell, and GKY standing for go kill yourself. We have acronyms that allude to drug use and drinking. UDI stands for unidentified drinking injury. We're going to see a couple of those later in the presentation. And meetup requests. MIRL, meet in real life. And I often wonder, if people were to meet in real life, would they still use this acronym? And it is so nice to finally MIRL. Probably not. It's also affected how we make connections. For example, every 20 minutes, over 10 million comments are posted to Facebook, over 2 million photos are uploaded, 2 million friend requests are formally sent, and almost 2 million statuses are updated. That means by the time this presentation ends tonight, over 30 million comments will be posted to Facebook. And of course, Facebook has shaped and even changed the way we do business. It is getting harder and harder to walk into a business and not see, again, like that coveted like button. And businesses have used this to their benefit, like us on Facebook, and we'll give you an incentive. For example, there's many restaurants actually here in Santa Clarita who will offer us a free appetizer or 2-for-1 entrees if we can pull out our mobile device and show the server that we've liked them on Facebook. So some social benefits of Facebook. We know it provides connections. We can instantly connect with somebody around the globe, somebody who we probably wouldn't have had the chance to meet or interact with without this social medium. It can help build or maintain friendships and relationships. In fact, when I asked my students why they first got on Facebook, overwhelmingly the response was to reconnect with somebody I had lost track of. And it helps users to remember birthdays, important events, stay up to date on pop culture, politics, economics, and art. I can say that since joining Facebook in July, I have forgotten much fewer birthdays. So here comes the second part. This is when we're going to look at what Facebook might be and explore the possibility of social disintegration and use sociological theory in that exploration. One example of social disintegration from Facebooking actually comes in the form of the stifling of human potential with the categorical requirements of Facebook. And by categorical requirements, I mean things like this. The first time I logged on, when I first logged on, first I had to agree to the terms of service. I understood I no longer owned anything that I was going to put on Facebook. But then it asked me, well, it wanted me to identify my sex category, but asked me for my gender. As a sociologist, I chose female and moved on. But then it asked me what I was interested in, men or women. And I thought, for companionship, friendship? I'm assuming this is my sexual preference. And I'm thinking, Facebook and I have only just met, and it wants to know my sexual preference. Then we have relationship status, another category. And while this is a pretty good-sized list, right, we have, let's see, single, in a relationship, engaged. I couldn't help but notice that married and it's complicated came right next to each other in our choices. I'm sure anybody who's married can probably agree that it's usually complicated. And then I started thinking, when is it not complicated to be engaged or to be dating or to be single? But we only have the option to choose one. We also see social disintegration in the form of the bureaucratization of friendship. And by bureaucratization of friendship, what I'm referring to here is essentially the idea of friendship becoming commodified. Friendship sort of becomes this currency of the social network where we can track and count our friends. It becomes, instead of a qualitative value, it becomes a quantitative value. And it does something more than that by creating the illusion of companionship. We can count our friends. Does that really mean we have companions? And it does something else. It also creates an illusion of control, that we can control our companions, we can control our friends by tracking how many there are. It also produces a false sense of security without boundaries for truth or regulation of behavior. Here we have Zuckerberg with his first Facebook page claiming to be a Harvard graduate. He dropped out of Harvard after creating Facebook. I'm not saying he necessarily made a poor choice in his case, but when a reporter asked him, why did you put that you're a Harvard graduate? His response was, well, there's no dropout option. So the very person who could bring us the dropout option chose not to, restricting those categorical requirements even further. Another example of lack of regulation of behavior comes from this report. In the Daily Telegraph in 2009, released a report claiming 20% of new divorce cases reference inappropriate sexual conversations on Facebook as a factor in the marital entropy. Not 20% of new divorce cases don't just have inappropriate sexual conversations. It's inappropriate sexual conversations on Facebook that they're referencing. So maybe those people chose the "it's complicated" button. We also see offensive or threatening language becoming normalized on Facebook. We have seen a growing trend in the use of these acronyms specifically. BIH, remember, standing for Burn in Hell, and GKY standing for Go Kill Yourself. 182 stands for I Hate You. A Pew Research report in 2012 revealed that 88% of social networking teens have seen somebody be cyberbullied. 39% of those teens have been cyberbullied themselves. This is Amanda Todd and Rebecca Sedwick. Amanda Todd was living in British Columbia. She had moved to a new town, and in an attempt to meet people, she got on Facebook, and she started friending people who were in close geographic proximity to her. At the age of 13, a young man asked her to flash her breasts, and she did. He took a screenshot. About a year later, he found her on Facebook, and he told her, quote, "If you do not give me a show, I'm going to send this picture to your friends and family and post it all over Facebook." The police showed up at her house at 4 a.m., telling her that the picture had been splattered all over Facebook, and that pages had been created with her breasts as the profile picture. Her peers at school, she ended up moving schools twice because her peers began to harass and bully her. Pages were created with things like GKY, nobody cares about you. She would have been 17 in less than 2 weeks from today, but instead she hung herself at 15. Rebecca Sedwick was a young woman living in Florida. She was dating a young man who, after they broke up, this young man started dating another young woman, and this young woman decided to target Rebecca Sedwick for bullying. She took to Facebook immediately and created a "We Hate Rebecca Sedwick" page. And on that page were quotes like, "Drink bleach and die," "Go kill yourself, you're ugly," and 182. The accused harassers were 12 and 14 years old who created the page. Rebecca Sedwick eventually jumped off a tower in an abandoned cement plant. She was 12 years old. The University of Michigan's Institute for Social Research in 2009 claimed contemporary American college students are 40% less empathetic than their counterparts in the 1980s and 90s. Now, their main explanation for why we're seeing a decrease in empathy among college students, this is actually the first generation entering college that has also grown up in a Facebook world. And they claim that in this report that actually when we have a generation growing up in a Facebook climate, they're also growing up in a self-promoting climate. They become accustomed to self-promotion, and we'll see an increase in narcissism as well as in self-esteem issues. And it's those two things that are systematically replacing empathy. This cartoon circulated widely online to demonstrate today's response to somebody needing help. Here's Rita Parsons. She was living in Nova Scotia, and at 15 years old, she went to a party with some friends, people she knew. They were drinking, and that night she was raped by four boys, people she knew. She, the next morning, said she had no recollection of the sexual assaults. All she remembered was throwing up. She actually didn't find out she had been raped until the pictures of the act were posted to Facebook. So while she was being raped by 4 people, others took pictures and then posted them to Facebook. She reported the crime to police with the support of her family, and because of the photos, the police actually responded by saying, "This is a he said, she said case, and we're not going to prosecute or charge anyone formally with the crimes." She then hung herself at 17 years old. After she hung herself, the police responded by reopening the case with a new investigation, and they have made arrests. This is Tyler Clementi. He was an 18-year-old freshman at Rutgers University. He was in his dorm and asked his dorm mate if he could just have privacy in the room for one night. The roommate agreed, but not before turning on his webcam. And then he went to another room with a few other friends, and they watched Tyler engage in sexual activity with another male. They then published and posted it to social networking sites, even calling for a formal meeting for a second viewing on Twitter in another room. Clementi did report this and request to be moved, request a new roommate. His request was unmet. The last thing he did before jumping off the George Washington Bridge was post this to Facebook. This was his last status update. Jumping off the GW Bridge, sorry. So those are a couple of examples of the possibility of empathy declining in this generation. We also see that photos of people engaging in dehumanizing acts are usually not condemned or punished, but at times they're even encouraged. So this picture, and I think it's important to mention too that I actually went and I myself blurred out these faces. So after retrieving the images from Facebook so as not to exacerbate the very problem I'm discussing, I wanted to protect these people's identities, even though, remember, according to Facebook's rules, it's now public property. I can do with it what I want. This young woman is laying on the ground. She's presumably passed out. We don't know if she removed her own clothes or if somebody removed them for her. There was a blanket strategically placed on her. Again, we don't know who put that on her. But we do know that somebody took a picture and somebody posted it to Facebook. And that by the time I got it, it had over 136 likes. MIT's Initiative on Technology and the Self released a report claiming that perpetual networking activity is actually undermining many parents' relationships with their children. We can see this in a couple of ways. Their main argument, by the way, for the undermining of relationships between parents and children is basically explainable through it's becoming easier and easier to turn parents off and turn Facebook on, especially with Facebook so available on most of our mobile devices. So the very behaviors that we might be punished for by parents, we can get reinforcement in the form of likes instantly. Here's one example. Let's see, this comes from this is Alex's page. His status update was, "Hate my friends, parents are lame." Rose then responded, "Uh-oh, what happened?" And Alex said, "Long story short, Mark's parents went out of town. I drank too much. When I passed out, they all left me in front of the police station with a sign that said, 'I'm a werewolf,' and to lock me up. Grounded for 2 months, MIC, and community service. Minor in possession of controlled substance." So then Dana writes, "No way. I'm so sorry, Alex, that is terrible, but so funny. LOL, werewolf?" So we can see, and so there's a couple things going on. Alex obviously feels brave enough to post this on Facebook. When Mark's parents go out of town, they're using their place to drink, and drink apparently so much that he's completely passed out. But then he said his status update being, "Parents are lame, hate my friends." If you notice, it's actually Mark is the first one to like his post. And it was Mark's parents' house that this happened at. The sexualization of young girls has become celebrated and normalized on Facebook. No matter what symbols you think you're reading on the screen right now, All of these girls are 18 and under. I retrieved these photos, I removed their faces, and what is really interesting about this is these women not only took the pictures of themselves, but I retrieved it from their pages. They're posting their photos on their own pages. And if you look, so they're all 18 and under, and if you look at these images, you can see that basically they all look like they're in somebody's home. We can probably assume it's their parents' home at that age. So they're taking these pictures of themselves in their parents' homes and then putting them on Facebook. Facebooking can also minimize and distract us from the importance of real interaction. A Pew Research report in 2009 revealed members of networks like Facebook are 26% less likely to spend time with their neighbors, which then made me think maybe that's why we need Nextdoor.com. This is a social networking site that you can go on by typing in your zip code. You click on your house, upload your picture, say something brilliant, and voila, you've met your neighbors. No need to go next door. A BYU research study in 2007 claimed the heaviest consumers feel less socially involved with the community around them, meaning the people who are spending most time on Facebook, maybe trying to make connections, actually have the lowest connection to their society, the lowest social integration into the community around them. It's enabling our tendency for isolation to an unprecedented degree. In fact, The Atlantic reported that roughly 20% of Americans are unhappy with their lives because of loneliness. Now, Sherry Turkle is an author of a book called Alone Together, and she actually differentiates the difference between solitude and loneliness. She says solitude is when we take time to ourselves, when we find out who we are, when we get to know ourselves better, whereas isolation is not spending time with us, just spending time alone. And when we are the more we use Facebook, the more ingrained our society becomes in Facebook, the easier it becomes to be alone together. Stephen March from The Atlantic writes, "It's a lonely business, wandering the labyrinths of our friends' and pseudo-friends' projected identities, trying to figure out what part of ourselves we ought to project, who will listen, and what they will hear." Utah Valley University released this study claiming that the more time a person spends on Facebook, the more likely he or she is to believe friends live happier lives and life is unfair. Now, the American Academy of Pediatrics, or the AAP, actually as of this year is now recognizing Facebook depression and its dangers. Facebook depression is essentially described by the AAP as teens and preteens exhibiting symptoms of clinical depression after spending a great deal of time on Facebook. So symptoms like withdrawal, isolation, anxiety. And to know that we can, with this new thing called Facebook depression, what's really, really unique about this one is that most of the time when these teens and preteens are exhibiting those signs of clinical depression, they'll often turn to Facebook to make connections, to feel better, not realizing that it might be Facebook that's actually contributing to the problem. So here's some sociological theory to answer some of our questions. How did we get here? This is Karl Marx. Now, Karl Marx was writing over 100 years ago. He couldn't have possibly imagined our virtual world today. But we can use his terms to help to explain it. He came up with terms like dehumanization and alienation. He described dehumanization as, well, first he argued that social actors become alienated through capitalism, and that dehumanization will come when we sell our labor power. Because when we sell our labor power, we also sell other things, human capabilities, like creativity or empathy. That when we start selling our labor power in exchange for a wage, we begin mimicking behaviors that are expected of us at our jobs, at our workplace. We begin acting more like machines than we do people. And he says alienation happens when the very product that we're producing, we've lost control of it. We see dehumanization through Facebook because we mimic those constricting Facebook behaviors. There's only so much we can do. We can log on, we can post photos, we can update statuses, we can like, we can poke. There's not much more. So when we enter that Facebook world, we will begin mimicking those repetitive behaviors. And it restricts that human potential. We see alienation through Facebook because as consumers, we don't control Facebook. We don't even control our own pages. When we upload something, it becomes public property, it becomes Facebook property. We are not Facebook's friend. I'm sorry, yes, we are not Facebook's friend. We are its product. Erving Goffman wrote The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life in 1959, and again, he couldn't have possibly imagined the virtual world today when he wrote The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life. But when he wrote this, he was essentially focusing on those behaviors that go largely unnoticed in our everyday interactions, those mundane behaviors, how we present ourselves to others. And he called them dramaturgical performances. He said within dramaturgical performances, there's a front stage and a backstage. So think about being at a play, and when we're an audience member at a play, we're seeing what's going on in the front stage. The actors are very rehearsed, they're very polished, they're in their costumes with their makeup, the lights are perfect, the markers are laid, they know where to go, they know what to say. And that's the presentation we see. But there's also a backstage going on at a play. What's happening back there? Mayhem, maybe. Fights, real emotion, costume malfunctions. We're not supposed to see that, even though it's still very real. And he says every social actor also has a front stage and a backstage. And in our front stage, these are the behaviors that we show to our general audience, to large numbers of people. But he says that every social actor also has a backstage. And in the backstage, these are the behaviors that go largely unseen by a general audience. Maybe these behaviors include something like sexual behaviors, or criminal behaviors, or emotions like envy, jealousy, whatever it is that we don't typically show, if ever, to anyone, that's our backstage self. And Goffman says that's where our true self is, in the backstage. And even though we don't present it on the front stage, it's always there. The front stage also comes with masks, he says, that represent social roles and expectations. So for example, right now, I'm wearing a presenter mask, according to Goffman. I'm wearing a presenter costume. I'm reciting only what I'm supposed to be saying. You will not know, you're not going to see my backstage behaviors. I'm not going to offer that to you, but you're not supposed to, because that's not part of my presentation of self for everyday life. And when I leave here tonight, I won't be wearing that presenter mask anymore. It wouldn't make sense to be in this outfit and talking in the way that I am to my family and friends. If I'm with my parents, I'll be wearing a daughter mask. My social roles and expectations shift. If I'm with my sister and her family, I'll wear my sister and aunt mask. Again, my social roles and expectations shift. They change. We're very good at this. We don't have to think about it. We know what mask to wear and what behaviors to exhibit. But something very interesting is going on with our virtual world. In the presentation of self on Facebook, we're wearing virtual masks. But not only are we wearing virtual masks, we're wearing them simultaneously. So instead of exhibiting specific behaviors for specific audiences, we're expected to wear them for the entire Facebook audience. Maybe we're friends with our employers, with lovers, with ex-lovers, with friends, with family members. We're supposed to present ourselves to that audience, to that large audience, all at once. This is resulting in something called intravidual. This term comes from Dalton Connolly, a professor at NYU in social sciences. He says, people of our digital age are intraviduals, fragmented souls, always caught between identities, possessing multiple selves, and competing for attention within his or her own mind. So instead of even being able to wear that mask on our front stage and present ourselves that way, we're actually wearing these masks representing really the approximations of our various roles in society. And yet we're trying to tell the world, we're trying to at least tell our Facebook friends who we are with these approximations. So while Facebook eliminates geographic distance, it's actually producing distance internally. Something else interesting, is that these normative backstage behaviors that we don't let people see are actually beginning to enter Facebook's front stage. Sometimes we are posting it ourselves. Sometimes other people are posting our backstage behaviors for us. So, for example, I don't know this person, but this is Jacob Cox Brown. I retrieved this from Facebook. He posted his mugshot with this: driving drunk, classic, winky face. But to whoever's vehicle I hit, I am sorry. His mother posted a response 2 hours later that said, Jacob, this is evidence, take it down. I, however, retrieved it before Jacob wised up. And actually, other people have too. A lot of people retrieved it because this is showing up on Google Images now. Once you post it to Facebook, it doesn't belong to you anymore. So that's one example of a backstage behavior entering Facebook. Here's a few others. I'll give you a minute. So, we have a young man puking, two young men puking. One is just at a football field and one is hung over his toilet. And a presumably young woman, she looks passed out on her toilet. When did we get to this point that we thought, you know what my Facebook friends want to see? Me passed out and hung over on a toilet. Here are some more. Here's somebody going to the bathroom in the woods. Somebody using what looks to be like cocaine, and somebody posting a photo of themselves after recovering at home after a breast augmentation. These are very personal activities, personal behaviors. Not only are we seeing a shift in people wanting to share this stuff, but we're seeing a shift in people liking seeing this stuff. All of these photos had multiple likes when I retrieved them from Facebook. So what can we do about all this? What can we do in this Facebook era when dehumanization and alienation are increasing and when things like empathy are at risk? There's a few things. We can rehumanize ourselves in the Facebook world, and we can do it through consumer literacy. And what I mean by consumer literacy is just understanding not only the costs and benefits of Facebook, but also understanding our experience with Facebook. The first thing we can do is realize that free social networks are never actually free. They cost us our time, they cost us our energy, they cost us our creativity. We can also dismantle thinking that one's social worth can be measured by the virtual representation of one's self. Amanda Todd and Rebecca Sedwick fell victim to internalizing the harassing terms that were written about them on Facebook. They were victims of something that we actually call in sociology slut-shaming, where those pages were created only to identify specific people in society as sluts and to then focus the harassment on that theme. They then took that, what was happening on Facebook, it translated into their real lives, and they measured their own social worth as what others were presenting of them on Facebook, and that being nothing. Disengaging from socially responsible behavior is not something we should celebrate, ignore, or pretend it is something from which we are exempt. Even if we're not the ones posting sexually explicit photos of ourselves, if we're not even the ones liking it, if we're not the ones posting pictures of other people passed out at parties or engaging in those behaviors or liking it, if we don't actively speak out against it, we won't see any kind of shift. In fact, we can almost guarantee we'll only see an increase in those acronyms, BIH, GKY, and we'll likely see an increase in the attempted suicide rates among our teenagers if we do not start actively acting out against cyberbullying. And we can deconstruct the bureaucratization of friendship by not managing friends the same way we manage our assets. Friendship is a defining quality of the human condition. It is not a quantifiable asset to be aggregated, to be traded, or to be bargained with. Now, keeping all this in mind, rather than erasing our virtual life, we just need to manage it. Instead of relying solely on Facebook to make connections, we can use it as a social enhancement tool. We can keep in mind that if we're spending hours on Facebook and not feeling fulfillment, maybe it's because those connections are not the kind of companionship we're looking for. So managing our time, but also understanding that friendship on Facebook is not the same thing as friendship in real life. And keeping all of this in mind, we can learn to manage our virtual life, and we can maximize our benefits while minimizing our costs. So I hope you learned something tonight. Whether you're on Facebook or not, I hope this presentation painted a clearer picture for your understanding of our virtual world and our Facebook presentations of self. And if you enjoyed yourself and liked what you saw, please don't forget to like me on Facebook. Thank you very much.
Katie Coleman, everybody. Give her a big round of applause.
Thank you.
If it's possible for you to stay seated for a while, that would be fantastic. We have a set of presentations for Katie's great accomplishment this evening. Good evening. I'm David Stevenson. I'm the chair of this committee, and it's been just a wonderful experience working with Katie. And she did a fantastic job, so congratulations. Watch your step, everybody. I have a few folks that I would like to bring up on stage. I also have a few people that I would like to thank. I'd like to introduce from the board. We have Joan Jacobson joining us tonight. And Joan McGregor, why am I thinking Joan Jacobson? I'm sorry. Joan McGregor, and Michelle Jenkins is in the audience there too. Sorry. That's okay. And joining us tonight is Dr. Jerry Buckley. This is his first scholarly presentation, so I hope you enjoyed that. And Murray Wood is here from the COC Foundation. So quickly, I'd like to thank a few people. My scholarly presentation committee, who always does a great job, and we're now receiving our new applications for our next round. We're very excited about that. Jesse Munoz in the Public Information Office, who always gets all of the information out to everybody. A special thanks to Cindy Bahan through the foundation. She always does a fantastic job for us. From the theater, Tammy Toon, Michelle Wall and her crew, and all of the volunteers who are here helping tonight and doing this on their own free time. I appreciate that. Our interpreter tonight is Alyssa Jukes, and this is the first time we've had an interpreter here tonight. On the audio-visual side, I'd like to thank Sean Hughes. Cougar News is live streaming tonight for the first time, so this is apropos, I guess, for tonight's topic. Our artwork is done by Nick Pavick, and I would like to thank all the faculty, staff, and students that are here tonight. And the faculty and staff, we have a reception, thanks to the Board of Trustees, after this is done tonight. So I would like to bring up Joan McGregor.
Joan Jacobson's a good friend of mine. So I want to thank you for those students that are remaining. I really want to thank you because this is a tribute to Kathryn. She has done an absolutely fantastic, informative, and entertaining presentation tonight. Something that I think we all have taken for granted is belonging and being on Facebook, and to learn, see the numbers, see the statistics, and to really have some deep thoughts about what this is doing, not only individually, but to our society, was really beneficial, and I want to give her another round of applause. I, along with Michelle Jenkins, who is here. Michelle, if you want to come up. Oh, you didn't come up, okay. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, we want to thank Kathryn Coleman, our two-faced world, in recognition of your support, November 14th, 2013, and this is from the College of Accountants Foundation. I also want to make a brief mention of our Chancellor, Dr. Diane Van Hook, who is out of town and could not be here tonight. I know how much these scholarly presentations mean to her. I know how much this means to the Board of Trustees. We have fantastic faculty on this campus, and I hope as students, which many of you are, people from the community, you will begin to realize how valuable having these kinds of faculty members on our campus instructing you how much that means to all of us. We are so very, very fortunate. And again, I thank you for remaining. And now I'd like to introduce Marie. Do you want to come up next?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And this is a special card from Diane. She's so sorry she couldn't be here.
My name's Murray Wood, and I'm the Chief Development Officer for the College of the Canyons Foundation. The foundation is the philanthropic arm of the college, and our mission is really to reinforce the kind of education that our students get here and to reach out into the community. I'd like to officially, but I'm not sure I can do it, is actually to give you a poke in the like. Something like that. I don't know if that's appropriate.
A poke and a like.
But on behalf of the foundation, in recognition of this occasion and congratulations for a really wonderful presentation, we'd like to present you with this honorarium.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. As you heard earlier, my name is Jerry Buckley. I'm the Chief Instructional Officer for the college. I'd like to present these flowers to Katie and also make a brief comment to you. I don't know if you understand how special an evening like this is. You have to realize that activities like this go back to the times of the Greeks. You may or may not understand that when you're part of a college or a university, you're part of what's called the academy. The academy is a collection of faculty that for centuries, thousands of years now, have actually gathered together to basically perform scholarly inquiry, as Katie did this evening, and share their thoughts. So I would like you to understand the important history that you have been part of this evening. And oh, by the way, she also explained to me this evening why I have observed what I call the bat cave syndrome. In the past decade, all my neighbors simply come home, open their garage doors, drive in, and I never see them again. Thank you.
So once again, congratulations to Katie Coleman on a fantastic presentation. Thank you all for coming. Have a good evening.